Alright, here we are working on the Trailboss 325 yet once again. As you can see, I have taken the fuel tank out. I have also removed the what they call the Petcock, which is the valve that you will see next to your left leg when you're riding. It's the on-off reserve valve. I've also removed the forward light fairing assembly to access the fuel pump, and as you can see, the fuel pump is a little bit different from any other pump that you've probably ever seen. It's got 3 lines going to it, and let me explain to you what line does what, just in case you get backwards on how your fuel lines went and whatnot. You will see on the top of your fuel pump a P. Alright, the P, I believe, is the pressure line. I think that's what it stands for, and it's an upper case which has a vacuum chamber inside of it. And I think what the vacuum chamber does is it basically allows the fuel to flow or to stop depending on the vacuum coming from the carburetor. The line that you see right here is your pressure line. This line goes all the way here to the top part of your carburetor. You can see the line right there, and basically what that is it's a vacuum line. Alright, the vacuum line opens a valve in here which allows fuel to flow. Now, the line that's most forward on the forward part of your ATV is the fuel flow that comes from the tank. Alright, so this one comes from the tank. It has a fuel filter. Notice that the fuel filter right here, it has a flow arrow, which I don't know if you can see right here. No, not really. But the flow arrow is pointing obviously towards the fuel pump. Alright? I don't know why they call it a fuel pump. They should have just called it a fuel valve. I mean, it really isn't much of a pump, at least from what I can see, unless the vacuum coming from the carburetor actually turns something inside of there, creating a pressure which feeds, I don't know. The other line right here in the center goes to your carburetor. Alright? That's the line just below your pressure line, so I call it the middle one. Alright, that one goes right to your carburetor, which goes right here on the left side of your quad. You'll see where the fuel line goes in right there. Alright, now I just got done replacing all the fuel lines. The reason why I did this is because my quad stopped running. It started starving for gas, and it just wasn't running correctly. It got to the point where it just completely stopped running. I wasn't sure to attribute that to a dirty fuel tank, maybe a collapsed fuel line, maybe a clogged up Petcock valve. So I decided to go through the whole system and just basically blow everything out, clean everything up, and I also replaced all the fuel lines. Now, if you intend on pursuing a fuel line replacement on the Trailboss, or maybe on any other Polaris ATV with the same fuel pump setup, I'd recommend that you check all your fuel lines. You'll see this is the old fuel line that came from the Petcock valve, that came from the tank to the Petcock valve. Now, if you'll see, I can almost squeeze this completely down. Alright, you can see how much compression I have on there, and that tells you right there that your fuel line, this fuel line, is completely like worn out just over the years. This is the original fuel line to this quad, so it's 16, 14, 15 years old. So I'm able to squeeze that line. This, on the other hand, I can barely squeeze. This is new fuel line, alright? And the reason for that is you want to maintain your inner diameter open so that you get proper fuel flow. Whether it's pressurized or gravity fed or whatever, you don't want anything affecting this, because with the amount of twists and turns these fuel lines have to do, you don't know if they're getting pinched off, you don't know if your inner diameter is being affected, thus affecting your flow. Alright? So if you're going to replace all the fuel lines on your Polaris, they're quarter inch fuel lines, alright, 1/4 inch, and you should get at least 7 feet. Alright, I bought 2 6-foot lengths because I wasn't 100% sure how much I had to replace, but just plan on replacing, getting enough, roughly 7 feet. 7 feet ought to do it just fine. And take out each line one at a time so that you don't mess up where each line goes. And just take that length of line, match it up, get a nice sharp utility knife, cut the lines, and then just kind of keep putting each piece in at a time. Now, I also took the fuel tank out completely and cleaned it out. And on the bottom of the fuel tank, you'll see that there's a place for two nipple fittings. Now, the nipple fittings that came out were these right here. Now, you have a regular on nipple fitting, which is this bad boy right here. You'll see that it has a plastic piece that goes halfway up the pipe. That is a solid plastic piece, and the reason for that is to allow you to ride in the on position with your petcock valve. It allows you to ride so that once your tank gets below a certain level, your quad will start shimmying and shaking, and it'll stop performing because, you know what? You went below that line where your filter is right here. That allows you to understand that, hey, I'm almost out of gas, and it allows you to put your valve on reserve. This is your reserve nipple fitting, and the filter just goes right to the top. Basically, it's all filter. This allows you to run on a reserve section of your tank, so that you know, hey, I'm almost out of fuel. It's time to get off the trail. It's time to get back to the truck and put some more fuel in me. So these are the two valves. All right, I took both of those out, and believe it or not, they were pretty freaking dirty. And trust me, this is not dirt from my step here. This is what was inside my tank. All right, so whoever had my quad before me did not run very clean fuel. So it's not a bad idea to take these out and clean them up, check for debris, check to make sure your filters are clean, because I'm pretty sure that mine was pretty gummed up. All right, so these are the number of items that I recommended for doing a fuel system rebuild. You can check your fuel valve, your fuel pump, by taking this line off right here. And there's no fuel going to this line. It's a dry line, basically pressure line. Take it up to your mouth and blow in, suck in and blow out a couple times. You will hear inside that fuel valve, the fuel pump, you'll hear like a little tiny click. That kind of tells you if the valve is actually working or not. All right. I did that on this quad, and it appears that it's working. I sucked in and breathed out, and I heard the click. All right. That tells me that the fuel pump should be working properly. Whether or not there's something else going on inside the fuel valve besides the vacuum assisted item, I don't know, but that told me right there that it is functioning properly. All right, replace all your fuel lines, 1/4 inch, 7 feet. Take out your petcock valve. All right, pretty simple. You take the screw off this right here, and below that screw you will find a nut. Take the nut off the threaded section right here, and back this section off the bracket. Disconnect the fuel lines from the fuel tank, and take this assembly, clean it out, blow it out, do whatever you got to do. Check for operation. A good way of checking for operation is putting the valve handle back on and turning it to off and blowing in the lines, and make sure that no air comes out. Then put it on reserve and blow through the reserve line. Make sure that that's working properly and that there's no air coming out the on side. And then turn it to the on position. Blow through that. Make sure it's not going anywhere else. Like I say, this is the line you'll feel air coming out of, as the center one, because that one goes to your fuel pump. So depending on which direction you turn this, the air will come out of this line right here. All right. Then I'd recommend taking the tank out, cleaning it out. A lot of different ways of cleaning a tank out. If you have a lot of debris in there, what I did is I did my best to get the old fuel out. I shook it around a lot. I got all the debris on one side, turned the tank upside down, and drained it out through the top as best I could. The Phillip hole is where I drained it out of. Then I removed the two lines, and then I took basically a garden hose with water and flushed it out many times. Filled the tank up with water, shook it, drained it out. Filled it up again. I must have done it 4 times. Shook it, drained it out, and then I just very, very carefully dried the tank as best I can, shaking the water up, getting it to go out the drain holes, putting air in there, maybe spraying a little bit of brake cleaner in there to clean whatever residuals out, and basically get your tank so it's pretty dry. One other last thing that I'd recommend for you if you, depending on how much you ride your ATV. If you're like me from Connecticut, to go out riding your ATV, if you don't have private land and you're going to like a park out of state, or you're going to a place like Scranton, Lost Trails, or you're going down to Pennsylvania, a couple different trails down there, I don't go riding as much as I'd like. And so what I do is I always run premium fuel in my tanks. The reason for that is premium fuel has less ethanol, and the ethanol is what really breaks down your fuel system if it sits in there for too long and is not used regularly. If you're a person that rides your quad every single week and you empty a tank out every 2 weeks or so, you can run 87. I mean, your machine doesn't necessarily need to run on 93. It's designed to run on 87. But if you're like me and you don't ride it as much as you'd like, run premium fuel and you'll have a lot less problems with your fuel system. A lot less ethanol, much better quality fuel. It will keep your octane. Oh, I guess octane's octane. It's going to be there regardless, but it's just a better quality fuel that you want to have inside your fuel system. Hopefully this tutorial helped you out a little bit. Like I say, this whole thing was a mystery to me until I started reading into it and figuring out what the Polaris fuel pump was all about. I'll let you know if there's any problems with this system. I went ahead and ordered a new fuel pump just to be on the safe side. This is the original one. I'm going to see if I can get it working again. We're going trail riding in the next 2 days. My new fuel pump won't be here till next week. So I'm going to see if I can't get this thing running for right now, but I intend on replacing the fuel pump. They're only 16 or 18 bucks on eBay. Basically, it's the same. This Trailboss has the same fuel pump as you'll find on a lot of the Sportsman 500s. There is a part number. I will put that part number in my item description so that if you are having a problem with your fuel pump and you don't want to mess around with it, I will provide that part number for you so you can do an easier search. Alright, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, and hopefully I'll be posting more videos on this Trailboss. It's a pretty fun quad to work on. They're pretty straightforward, simple, and pretty fun to ride. But best of luck to you.